from the University of Otago. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a warning this morning about a potential whooping cough epidemic this winter, and with that warning comes advice for parents about keeping their children safe. Doctors Anusha Ganashalingam and Fiona Miles from Starship are with us on the couch this morning. Good morning and thank you for being here. Anusha, could I start with you? What are the numbers of whooping cough cases like this year compared to last year?
Well, pertussis is always in the community, so we're always going to get a number of cases, and in non-epidemic times there have been 70 reported cases per month, but in the last month there have been 130 cases. This isn't anywhere near what we saw in the last epidemic just yet. So in 2011 and 2013 there were about 400 cases a month, so we're concerned.
So at what level does it become classed as an epidemic? Why is that significant?
It just depends on the baseline incidence rates, and when we see a number of higher cases than expected, then we class it as an epidemic.
Is there any reason why it would be so prevalent at the moment?
We're due for an epidemic. Pertussis is always in the community, but when there's a build-up of people who are unimmunised, we experience an outbreak, and classically that's every 2 to 5 years. And our last one ended in 2013, so we're about due for one soon.
That sounds like a pretty dire warning. Perhaps we could talk about some practical advice with you, Dr. Miles. How do you, especially young babies that aren't immunised, how do you keep them safe?
Well, the most important thing that you can do is immunise them, and immunise them on time. We have very good immunisation rates because there's been a big push for that. So by 2 years of age, about 90 to 92% of our babies are now immunised. But the problem is the very small babies that are too young to be immunised. And the main thing for those babies is what we call cocooning, which is where you have the rest of the family or caregivers getting themselves immunised on time so that the baby is surrounded by an area of safety. The other important thing is to try not to take very small babies, less than 6 weeks old, particularly before they've had their first immunisation, out into the community and amongst big groups of people.
Because we've all seen that footage that I think was put out by a mother whose child had whooping cough. It's particularly serious for the very young?
Yes, it is. For the babies that are less than a year old, if they get whooping cough, about 50 to 70% of those babies will end up hospitalised, and those are the babies that die. And there's about a 1% chance of dying from whooping cough if you're admitted to hospital with us. And when they are admitted to hospital, there's very little that we can do because it's such a nasty disease. And that's heartbreaking, obviously.
Anusha, Dr. Miles just talked about the immunisation being very effective. Is it like the flu, though? Are there different strains, or once you're immunised, you're safe?
No, so if you get natural infection, you don't confer lifelong immunity, so your immunity wanes after 4 to 6 years, which is why after your adolescent booster at 11, you're advised, even as an adult, to get your booster every 10 years.
Yeah, because even if it's not too bad for you as an adult, you would hate to pass it on to someone tiny, wouldn't you? Thank you both for your time this morning, Dr. Anusha Ganashalingam and Dr. Fiona Miles from Starship.
7:20 here. Now, do you remember last week or earlier this week, Jehan Castaneda brought in the very